Hello everyone, Kyle Goethe here from Kyle and Nick on Film and on YouTube and GoatFilmReviews.com with another episode of Why I Love Cinema. And today we're going to be talking about not a big red dog, but a movie called Clifford nonetheless. This is a near and dear comedy to my heart, and this is probably one of the first episodes where I completely get it if you've watched this movie and hated it. So I'm going to go into it right now with that. I can see this movie being incredibly annoying, but to a 4-year-old, this thing was comedy gold, and I just smile thinking about it. So let's get started with this episode of Why I Love Clifford. All right, folks, welcome back to the show. Today we're talking Clifford from 1994. The film was directed by Paul Flaherty, who did Who's Harry Crumb and worked on a lot of episodes of TV's Primetime Glick, where he worked a lot with Martin Short, who plays the lead. The film's plot is basically Clifford, played by Short, is a troublesome 10-year-old who wants more than anything to go to Dinosaur World. It's this like mecca of childhood excitement for him. And when he is placed in his Uncle Martin's care for the week, he's never been closer to the actual site. His Uncle Martin actually worked at Dinosaur World for a while and has access. But Uncle Martin finds that he's in over his head with this incredibly manipulative and difficult child when he's unable to follow through on his promise to go to Dinosaur World. Very simplistic film in terms of that. It's really about the relationship between this boy and his uncle. Or the slow crumbling of that, I guess. And today we're going to talk about the 5 reasons why I love Clifford. Now, the reason why I selected it for this, actually, it's a movie that popped up in my head a while ago. I spent so many years looking for this movie. It was one of those like repeat rentals that we had when I was a kid. I'm not really sure how I first experienced it, how I first came across it, but it took me probably about a decade of searching to find an actual copy of the film. And when I finally did, it shocks me that I grew up absolutely adoring this movie. It changed so many things about, I guess, my comedy. But the fact that nobody that I knew this movie, and that was just kind of a complete like mind blow to me. And that's my first question for, I guess, our viewers today is, I want you to put in the comments below, have there been any movies that were instrumental to your childhood that no one around you as you got older watched or knew about? Those like really like, I can't believe this is just like a pocket of my own pop culture fandom that just no one else seems to understand. Clifford was that way for me. Now, the film had a 10% on Rotten Tomatoes. Through all the aggregated reviews for this thing, it held a 10% positive rating. So as I said at the beginning, I completely get if you hate this movie after watching it, but I do think it's still worth watching for the first time if you haven't seen it. It was deemed a commercial failure, but there's no real information on the budget for the film. I know it made about $7 million at the box office, which, I mean, that can't have made much money, if anything, for the studio, because, of course, theaters take a good chunk of that. And there's also some marketing that has to be done. So this film is definitely a failure. How much of a failure, I don't really know. But we are going to get into our 5 reasons why I love Clifford. We're going to start with number 1, pretty simplistically here, Martin Short's performance as Clifford. I'll just put it out right now. Clifford can be an incredibly annoying character, but I personally feel like Martin Short plays him with a sense of bonkers. I don't know, how do I put it? He plays him with a sense of like bonkers, evil insanity. Like, there will never be a child as awful as Clifford. And I think that's kind of the funny thing about it is he plays him so completely insane that, like any parent could watch the film and be like, well, at least I don't have that child. Just some of the antics that he gets to. In the first 5 minutes of the film, he attempts to bring a plane down. Now, again, this was 1994. This is before we had some really tragic events in our world. But the way it was played in the film, again, like, was really weird. He tries to basically cause a dangerous situation on a plane in order to get the plane to land in Los Angeles so that he can go to Dinosaur World. Like, within 10 minutes of this movie, he has done some truly horrible, reprehensible things. But Martin Short always plays it as if he's in the right, that everything Clifford has done is in the right. And the framing device for the film was actually set in 2050 with an old Clifford telling another child, like, what an awful kid he was, trying to make him relate to the fact that, like, we've all done terrible things, but you can be better than that. And it's definitely like one of those things where he's so awful of a child, but he plays it in a way where he believes he's the good character. He believes he's the strong protagonist. There really is no likable lead character outside of maybe Mary Steenburgen's Sarah Davis, but she's more of a supporting character in the film. But it's these two slowly crumbling characters, Martin Short's Clifford and Charles Grodin's Uncle Martin, as they tear each other apart. And some of the things that Clifford is willing to go through to get his ways are truly reprehensible, but he does them in a way that I cannot stop laughing at. So that's reason number one. Pretty simple. Martin Short as Clifford. Reason number two, why I Love Clifford from 1994. The supporting cast plays it straight. And what I mean by that is, like how it's important to, when you do something with like outlandish comedy, that you know when to play it straight. And what I mean by that is, let's look at Leslie Nielsen, who is my favorite comedic performer. Leslie Nielsen never played it for comedy in any of his performances. The reason why Leslie Nielsen was so funny in films like Airplane and films like The Naked Gun was that he always played it straight. He was always serious in the comedy. And it was the fact that he didn't understand, it was almost like his character never knew he was in a comedy. His character always was in a drama that was mined for comedy. And that's kind of how the supporting cast here plays it. The idea that you've got Martin Short, down to this level, doing all these wacky things and kind of just being awful, and the way he manipulates characters. He manipulates Uncle Martin for a good portion at the beginning of the film. He works with Sarah Davis and really turns her against Martin. The Sarah Davis character is Martin's girlfriend, kind of fiance. They've talked about getting married and having kids. But the way that Clifford, who falls in love with Sarah, turns her against Martin in an effort to just get to go to Dinosaur World is most people should be able to see through his evil antics quite well. He knows exactly what to do to make himself the victim. There's a great scene early on in the film where Martin is going to the airport to pick him up. Basically, they won't let Clifford on the plane because of what he does in the beginning of the film. So he has to stay with Martin, which is exactly what he wants. There's a scene where he overhears Martin outside, asking someone for help to go locate his nephew. He opens the door, he sees Martin, he knows he's coming. And so he goes out of his way to literally, close the door, go lie down with the blanket, and, he puts up a sign that says, I love my Uncle Martin, and he, gets all, asleep looking. He's just don't reject me. He knows exactly how to manipulate the situation. And the way that the supporting cast plays it, pretty much everyone outside of Charles Grodin's character and outside of Martin Short's character plays it as if they're witnessing an actual dynamic between a nephew and an uncle. Charles Grodin, starts to see through it. And that's kind of the way, as he enters this world of insanity throughout this film. Clifford is an incredibly stupid movie. Let's get that straight. But the way the supporting cast plays it elevates Short's comedy. It elevates the screenplay. So that's reason number two, why I love Clifford. Reason number three are the individual set pieces, and I'm not going to ruin a whole lot of them for you because I really think they're more fun to just watch and kind of live in. So, I've already kind of talked about some of the stuff that happens earlier on, but there's some great sequences at Uncle Martin's workplace, at this big building downtown, between Clifford and Sarah and Martin's boss, who is played by Dabney Coleman. Ellis. Ellis is his name. There's some really great scenes at a dinner party for Sarah Davis's parents who are having an anniversary. There's some great sequences at the airport. There's great stuff. The finale, each of the individual set pieces are so funny because, again, as I said, they're grounded within the supporting cast believing them to be played straight. So the individual set pieces and the ways in which Clifford manipulates the situation to his benefit is really great to watch because, again, we watch the film. As a child, I watched the film thinking, oh my gosh, Clifford is so amazing and funny and weird. As an adult, I watched the film going, what a little monster. I can't believe he's doing that. And in that way, those individual set pieces can be viewed from two different perspectives. I remember watching the film with my parents, and they were on the side of Martin. I was on the side of Clifford. We didn't really understand each other in that sense because it spoke to each of us in how each of those situations could be seen from the child perspective and from the adult perspective. So each of the individual set pieces works really well. And just, to get clear to you, he does make it to Dinosaur World. So it's all about his trek to get what he wants. He's very much a protagonist, even if he's an unlikable protagonist. So that's reason number 3. Reason number 4, these should have been more iconic dialogue. There are some truly funny sequences in this film, but it's aided by a really, what I find to be an intelligent script between William Porter and Stephen Campman. Again, these two guys, I don't think they liked their finished product, but William Porter and Stephen Campman wrote this screenplay about this kid, and some of the dialogue that was written for Martin Short, and then some of the improvised dialogue that Short uses to kind of, again, noodle his situation into what he wants. It's really strong stuff. He's also got some truly more, what I find to be iconic dialogue. He warns his father about getting a stroke, and it's a really non-PC joke that he makes there, but he also gets, the way he speaks about Uncle Martin to his face, where he speaks about Uncle Martin behind his back, the way he speaks to Sarah Davis about himself and the other characters, is everyone believes that he's such a cute little boy and he's so precious. And it's because of the iconic dialogue where he says something that means something in the film, but kind of is a backhanded compliment or something that kind of, again, uses that manipulation. And the way it devolves as these two characters slowly reach their climax together, and really kind of learn to hate each other in their process of evolving. The iconic dialogue is just absolutely incredible. It's one of the funniest character deliveries I think that you can have with him, with a old man playing a young child throughout the film. So that's reason number 4. I think the dialogue in the film is much stronger than people give it credit for. Reason number 5 why I love Clifford, Dinosaur World itself. Siskel and Ebert, I believe they talked about the Dinosaur World theme park that we eventually see in the film is so outlandishly stupid. And it is. I'll give them that. I'll give them the fact that the Dinosaur World that we see in the film is really stupid in terms of, the ride itself doesn't, Larry the Scary Rex ride doesn't really work. It just doesn't really make sense. Some of the pieces of that there are dangerous, and you can see that there would be a lot of destruction to this ride just because of the way it's all set up. So it's a dumb thing, but I think getting to that set piece and the way, again, that Clifford uses it and the way Uncle Martin uses that set piece to kind of really dig into each other makes for quite a spectacular finale to the film. And I won't get into anything more than that, but Dinosaur World is a set piece that I've actually found quite unnerving and scary as a 4-year-old. And it still kind of stays with me when I watch the film now. But it's just, it's just Dinosaur World, and it's just wonderful. I think overall, these 5 reasons, along with innumerable other reasons why I just absolutely adore the film. And I'll be honest with you, those 5 reasons may be completely different. You may hate all 5 things that happen in this film that I listed as reasons why I love it. It may just be, my nostalgia glasses, are worn too tight. But I watched the film a couple days ago, and my wife was asleep. And I was trying not to wake her, but I couldn't stop myself from laughing out loud. And I really tried to hold it back as much as I could. So I'll give this to you if you hate this movie. But these are the reasons why I love it. So we'll cover those again. Martin Short as Clifford is number 1. Number 2, the supporting cast playing it straight. They understand what kind of film they're in. Number 3, the individual set pieces themselves. I don't think there's a piece of this movie that I would cut out. I think every sequence in this film is funny in some way. And it's funny because I find it relatable. Number 4, the should have been more iconic dialogue. And number 5, the Dinosaur World environment and how, as a child, I connected with that, wanting to see it. I never got to go to Disneyland. Still haven't. I still kind of blame my parents for that. And I can understand being Clifford and wanting to go to Dinosaur World and see the Larry the Scary Rex ride. So, there you have it, guys. We're going to get into about 60 seconds here of fun trivia. I don't have a ton about the film just because it kind of disappeared. So I did a lot of little research here, but we will cover that here and we'll get started right about, I don't know, now. So Martin Short is actually a 40-year-old actor when he was filming this movie, playing a 10-year-old child. Most of his co-stars in the film stood on boxes and they used oversized props. In order to actually mimic the idea of this older man playing a young child. The movie was actually filmed in 1990, but Orion, which made the picture, had a pending bankruptcy, which forced the film actually to be delayed 4 years until 1994. And Short had actually released several other films in that interim. This would have been more of his more breakoutish kind of work. The film screenwriters, as I said before, used pseudonyms in the credits because of their disappointment in the finished film. Next up, Clifford ended up on the worst films of 1994 list by Siskel and Ebert, which makes it perfect fodder for this show, because if there's one thing I need to tell you about, it's a film that you've probably never heard of. Fun fact, Martin Short was once asked what his favorite curse word was on Inside the Actor's Studio. Have you ever actually watched that where, they kind of ask you, like, what's your favorite curse word? He answered poo. So there you go. Those are my 60 seconds of fun facts about Clifford, and thank you guys for rolling with me right here. All right, guys, that's pretty much the episode. I've given you my 5 reasons. I've told you why I love this movie, and you should check it out because it's really quite funny. And if you hate it, I totally get it, but I want to know your comments below. Why do you hate it? Why do you love it? Why are you refuse to see it? Let me know in the comments below. And hey, have you guys checked out the Patreon yet? You really should. There's a link right, it's like right around like here, like lower down. Check that out, and consider joining the Patreon for Kyle and Nick on Film. We're going to get the flagship show up and running again, and we can't wait to join you guys when we do that. So thank you for checking it out. Take a look at the Patreon. If you guys can't monetarily have part in the Patreon, we totally get it as well, but just support us in other ways. Then give us a like, consider subscribing to the channel, then you'll never miss an episode. Hey, you got social media? Share this on social media. We love getting shared on social media so we can just create more of that environment where we get to talk film with other people who love it, because that's really what we're all here for, right? All of us film fans love talking film, and we love talking it with other people that are passionate about this world. So thank you guys for joining me. I'm going to end it off the way I know how, singing the Larry the Scary Rex theme song. Larry the Scary Rex, he's a scary dinosaur, but don't be scared of his sharp, sharp teeth or his mighty, mighty roar. He loves kids and kids love him. Oh, I forgot the rest of it. Whatever, watch the show, guys. Check out the movie. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and we'll see you next time.